682 days ago.
Will still get him at least second.
Maybe a small look up. Oh, E-Perm? No!
Max Park is your world champion!
Speedcubing introduced us to what many now call the greatest world championship final in the sport's 43-year history. Now, 2 years later, heading into the 2025 World Championship, we have a very different situation on our hands. Because is it just me, or are we about to witness the greatest podium battle in the sport's history? It's not just that two of them use the method once thought to be impossible, or that one of them is barely 8 years old. It's that the battle of methods has reached its breaking point. And the 2025 World Championships may just be the one thing that decides everything. A seasoned veteran, arguably the best in the world under pressure, who's won more championships than most can count, now chasing the one title that's evaded him all these years. A rising prodigy, just 8 years old, who's already proven he can stand alongside or even outperform the best cuber alive. And then, the one many have already called the greatest speed cuber of all time. A solver who shattered more records than you can count, with a level of consistency that no one has even come close to replicating. Because after losing the last World Championships by 0.01 seconds, he is back with vengeance. But make no mistake, this may be closer than anyone thinks, because all of them will be fighting for the greatest title in cubing's history. Our story begins in 2017, when a young Polish kid named Timon Koshinsky first entered the scene. At first, he dominated Pyraminx, one of the fastest events, but this was just the beginning, because Timon wasn't just fast, he was smart, and over time, he became known as one of the most efficient solvers in the world. By 2019, he was ready to compete for the World Championships, but eventually coming short of the podium only by this little mistake. Then COVID hit, and Timon did something no one expected, going on to learn a method that at the time, most people called impossible. Consisting of over 800 algorithms, it's the most advanced method to date. Back then, Timon could have just stuck with CFOP. He already was world class, no one was even using ZBL. But instead, he risked it all to master the impossible. And by the time competitions were back in 2021, Timon was ready to win. Getting 3 European records, and finally getting his first 3x3 world record ever, with an average of 5:09. But in getting that world record, he inadvertently sparked one of speed cubing's most legendary rivalries that would define the modern era of cubing. By the end of 2022, we thought we knew it all. Max and Timon are the fastest cubers in the world, they both hold the world record. Timon was absolutely clutch in pressure moments, and Max had insane TPS and consistency. So it rationally made sense that if anyone would win the World Championships 2023, it would be one of them. So picture this. 8 months later, it's August 15th, 2023. And heading into the 3x3 final, one thing was certain. There was a clear favorite. Because coming off months of absolute dominance, shattering multiple world records, and cementing his name in the cubing history, we all had the right to believe he would win. Everything on paper pointed to him. The only question was, can anyone actually beat him? But here's the twist. That favorite wasn't Timon. And it wasn't Max either. Instead, it's this little 9-year-old kid named Yiheng Wang. And it's not even close. Just a few months earlier, almost out of nowhere, Yiheng exploded onto the scene. He shattered the world record average and instantly supplanted his name into cubing's history. The pure fact he was able to just come in and casually break the records that other pro cubers had been chasing him for years with an inhuman level of improvement is just insane. A new era had arrived, and Yiheng was leading it. At 9 years old, he wasn't just fast, he was redefining what speed looked like. But no one expected what would happen next.
On this last solve, he needs a 6:04 to beat Max.
Yiheng Wang's worst possible average will still get him at least second.
Maybe a small look up. Oh, E-Perm? No!
Max Park is your world champion!
What?
Yiheng Wang's lost it!
Yiheng lost to Max Park by just 0.01 seconds. The most dominant cuber in the world, dethroned by the narrowest margin imaginable. But after that loss, Yiheng didn't slow down. In fact, he did the exact opposite. improving so exponentially faster than any cuber on the planet, dropping another world record average in June of the next year, and then getting another, and another, and another, and another world record, and altogether shaving it down to 3.91 over breaking it 9 times in a row. It's really hard to put into words actually how dominant Yiheng was and is. You could even make a case that, at least for 3x3, Yiheng is more dominant than Felix Zemdegs at his peak. So, going into this 2025 Worlds, he isn't just the fastest cuber in Asia, he's the fastest cuber in the world. And what's even scarier, no one is even close. Max is slipping back, other pro cubers are falling behind, so suddenly, there are only 2 names left in the conversation. Yiheng Wang and Timon Koshinsky. 2 different generations, 2 different methods, 1 goal, Worlds 2025. Oh, but wait. There's one thing I forgot to mention. An 8-year-old child who may already be faster than Yiheng himself. And the craziest part, he's not even the same age Yiheng was last Worlds. Because somehow, Shaway Yi has improved at an inhuman rate. And now, he might be the only real hope anyone has of ever beating Yiheng. You see, he first came onto the scene right after Worlds 2023, and in his first ever competition, getting a
5.87
average, which is the fastest average for a newcomer ever. This immediately vaulted him to everyone's attention, because this is frankly unheard of. Just coming into your first competition and casually getting a sub 6 average. Oh, yeah, and also, he was just 6 years old at the time. Over the next year, Shaway Yi would continue to shave over a second off his PR average. But it wasn't until December of last year when we finally learned actually how good he is. Because that's when Shaway Yi pulled off a 4.32 average. The number might sound random, until you realize that's the closest anyone has ever gotten to beating Yiheng. And only a couple months later, Shaway Yi did something no one thought would ever be possible. A 3.05 world record single. The reason why this was so crazy was not because it was the closest solve to sub 3 ever, but it was how he did it. You see, Shaway Yi uses a method called ZBLL, which means instead of using 78 algorithms to solve the last layer, he uses nearly 500. This means that he can get more consistent results than anyone using CFOP, but it also means that because the algorithms are generally longer, he has a significantly lower chance of getting a very fast single. Unlike in CFOP, where if you get a lucky case, you have a very high likelihood of pulling off a world-class solve. So when Shaway Yi, a ZB user,
does this,
it shattered the assumption that only CFOP could get the fastest solves. But it also brings into question, which method is actually faster? Everything I've talked about, everything's been building and is culminating in the World Championships. Timon Koshinsky, a proven veteran who's the most clutch speed cuber in the world, looking to finally clutch up and win a Worlds, because this might be his last chance. The only reason he's even in the conversation is because he's been here before, and he knows how to handle pressure. Then there's Shaway Yi Gang, a rising star who came out of nowhere using a method built for competing on the biggest stage, looking to upset Yiheng and prove that he's the best cuber in the world. And then there's Yiheng Wang, one of the most dominant cubers of all time. He's been on a 9 record streak, and he's looking for vengeance. Because that moment in 2023 didn't just mark a loss. It marks the beginning of a storm. A clash that's been building quietly until now. Because Yiheng is going to come into Worlds, and he's going to come in hot. It would almost be a guaranteed win, except for the level of pressure Yiheng will be under is going to be unimaginable. But most importantly, this World Championships may just decide which method is better, CFOP or ZB. I simply cannot put into words how significant this World Championships is going to be for the next era of cubing. And honestly, I couldn't write a better storyline if I tried. Everything comes down to this. 3 contenders, 1 title, 1 method that could define the next era of cubing. This really does feel like we have a Cars 1 situation on our hands. If you know, you know.
The legend, the runner-up, and the rookie. 3 cars, 1 champion.
But this World Championship goes beyond titles, beyond pressure, and beyond rivalries. This is history. And most people won't even realize it. One turn, one look, and we're back where we started.